Hello friends, welcome. Welcome to this special session where we are going to discuss the changes that has happened in RBI 2021 syllabus. Yesterday, Samir sir discussed with you the notification in detail, and there he must have told you that today we are going to look at the differences in the syllabus of RBI 2019 and 2020. Now, before we move on and see the changes and also the agenda of today, let me tell you what has been the first reaction of most of the students when they came across this changed scenario. The first reaction was that the syllabus has been entirely changed, and whatever we have done for the past few months preparing ourselves for this exam, that would not be of any use now. That was the first reaction that all students gave, or most of the students gave. And I would not blame you. You know, the first reaction of mine was also that the syllabus has changed considerably. But then I calmed down and went ahead and compared the 2019 and the 2020 syllabus point by point. And then what I saw was something which I wanted to share with you. And that is the core agenda of today. Because I understand that, the amount of work that you have put in over the past few months for this exam, and if you feel that the syllabus has unduly changed, would lead to panic, no doubt about it. But is there real reason for panic or not is something that we are going to analyze today clearly. And then whatever you have to infer, you can infer on that. What is my inference? I will tell you after the comparison. I'll do the same thing that I have done, and I'll do it with you, and you would see whether there is change to the tune that this exam is entirely different from 2019 exam, or there are changes which are extension of the RBI 2019 exam. Right? Okay. So today's agenda is to first look at the exam structure in brief. That you have done yesterday also with Samir sir. But how do we start? We start with the exam structure, and then I will discuss the change of syllabus in each one of these segments: economic and social issues, finance, and management. Because these are the three areas where the changes have happened. And finally, we will see how to orient oneself for these changes. As a matter of fact, the changes and the orientation part, what do you need to do for that, would happen simultaneously. So I'll be discussing the changes and what you need to do for that. How much of your earlier preparation is still relevant for you, that you would also understand, and what new you need to do is something which also is something which you would understand. Okay, clear? Okay, so let's start off with the exam structure. Okay, chalo. First, the phase 1. We'll start with phase 1 only. See, 2019 this and 2020 this. If you look at here, the single paper of 200 marks, single paper of 200 marks, right? The paper consists of general awareness, English language, quantitative aptitude and reasoning. The paper consists of the same thing. A total time of 120 minutes will be given for answering. However, separate time will be allotted for each test. A total time of 120 minutes will be given for answering. However, separate time will be allotted for each test. So there is no significant change in phase 1. Is there? No. There is no significant change in phase 1. Right? Okay. Now, let's move on to the phase 2, where most of the changes have happened. Now, phase 2 online examination and phase 2 online examination 2019 and 2020. Paper 1. Objective type, paper 1, economic and social issues. The complete paper in 2019 was objective type. Paper 1, economic and social issues, the paper is divided into two parts. 50% is objective type and 50% is descriptive type. Clear? Okay. Okay. Now, there was 90 minutes in total for paper 1. Here, the time is 30 minutes and 90 minutes. Total 120 minutes, means 2 hours. So, from 1.5 hour of paper, it has become a 2-hour paper. The paper 1, economic and social issues. Proposed number of question, there is a symbol which we will see later on. Now, 50 marks is for objective questions, 50 marks is for descriptive question, total 100 marks. So, the total marks remains the same. Now, let's move on to the paper 2. English writing skills, descriptive to be typed with the help of keyboard, 90 minutes, 100 marks. English writing skills, descriptive answers to be typed with the help of keyboard, 90 minutes, 3 questions, 100 marks. So, this column is extra this time, which says how many questions would be there. Right. So, there will be 3 questions. Last year also there were 3 questions, but here they have specified that there will be 3 questions. Normally for the past few years, we have seen that one is essay, another is Precis, another is RC. Right. Now, whether they would be the same or not, there is no confirmation. That can change also, but we can assume that they would be in the lines of the essays, Precis and RCs. So, the capability checks would be the same. So, they can change the activities a little, but the basic idea would remain the same. Now, again now the next one, that is paper 3, finance and management. Now, look at finance and management. A considerable change here also, just like ESI, 50% objective question and 50% descriptive questions and answers to be typed with the help of the keyboard. 30 minutes, 90 minutes, just like ESI, 120 minutes total, 2 hours, 50 marks, total 100 marks, right? So, what we are looking at is a basic structural change that has happened in these two papers, paper 1 and paper 3. And now let's look at the number of questions. We know in the objective there would be how many questions or how many questions in descriptive. We know that. How? Because they have specified it. They have clearly specified it that for both paper 1 and 3 there would be 30 questions and 50 marks for objective questions. So there will be 30 minutes, 30 questions here, right? Okay. And how 50 marks? Because some questions would have 2 marks and some questions would have 1 marks. In case of descriptive questions, there would be 6 questions, of which candidates will be required to attempt 4 questions. So, you will have 6 questions given, you need to attempt 4 out of 6, right? 2 questions would be of 15 marks and 2 questions would be of 10 marks. So, most probably what might happen is that there would be 3 questions of 15 marks, you need to choose 2 out of them, and there would be 3 questions of 10 marks, you need to choose 2 out of them. Okay, that is the most probable scenario. Obviously, that we would know after the exams are over. This is just from the perspective that how they might design the paper. Okay. So, this is the structure of the paper. This is where the majority of the changes have happened. In the marks segment in interview also, the change has happened, but that's for later on. We would focus now on the changes in the phase 2, paper 1 and paper 3. So, this was the change in structure in 2020 vis-a-vis 2019. And this was a point of concern for a lot of students too, because now from being a totally objective test, paper 1 and paper 3 have become 50% objective and 50% descriptive. Now, how do we handle it is obviously going to be a concern. Yes, I agree with you, no doubt about it. But remember one thing, if your concepts are clear, if you have been doing your studies in a properly structured way where you understood the concept and thereby went ahead and did the objective questions, then you would not face much of a problem in descriptive. More of that, we would be addressing in our upcoming lectures, where Samir sir and Ravi sir and I would be delivering lectures where we would be showing you how to handle descriptive section of economic and social issues and financial and management. Okay, right. Now let's come to the second most important concern that students had, and that is the change in syllabus, which we are now going to address. So now we are going to dive in to the syllabus comparison, what it had been in 2019 and what it is today in 2020, and see whether the changes had been very significant and what do we need to do to orient ourselves to this change scenario. So first we will come with the syllabus of 2019 ESI. Now this was 2019 ESI. Whatever has been marked in blue are those areas which is not present in 2020 syllabus, right? Now please understand, today I am going to show you both the apparent changes, right, and the real changes, both, right? Why am I differentiating it? Because understand, my dear friends, in technical topics such as economics, finance and management, when I put a particular word, then with that word comes everything that is connected to that word or that concept or that area. So a lot of times we might be covering stuff which are related to it, and we do not see them as a part of the specified course, right? Then when those parts get specified, we are already prepared on that because they had been a part of our preparation. Okay, let me show this to you with the comparison. Now this is 2020 syllabus. Now compare it. The blue part is something that is not present verbatim, that is not present verbatim in the 2020 syllabus. This 2019 part, this blue part, is not present in the 2020 syllabus. Now let's compare. The black part is all that has remained unchanged. For example, growth and development, if you see, this part has remained virtually unchanged, right? Now coming to the Indian economy, the red part is the new part. I have color coded it so that you understand it also. The red part is the new part. Now this new part is apparently, some part of it is new, and in reality some part of it you have already done. Okay, so let's look at it. For example, Indian economy. Economic history of India, changes in industrial and labor policy, monetary and fiscal policy since reforms of 1991, right? Now if you look at it, if you have studied economic reforms of India, would you have left the policy reforms since 1991? Agreed, you might not have gone in detail of them, but you must have touched them in one way or the other. So you are not uninitiated in these issues. Are you uninitiated in these issues? No, right? Now, yes, the detailing has been increased, so therefore you will have to go into more detail in these areas. Priorities and recommendation of economic survey and union budget, right? Now tell me one thing, both in finance also and in ESI, you touch budget. The moment you touch budget, the priorities and recommendation of the current budget is something that you automatically do, right? So though this is something which has been stated clearly as a separate entity, but this is something that you must be doing anyways, right? Okay, now Indian money and financial markets, in this the linkages with the economy. Now if you can say to an extent that this linkages with economy has been included more so from the perspective so that we understand the policy or the theory or the concept that we are learning, what is the use of them. Please understand, if you have watched Samir sir's lecture yesterday, what did he tell you? That most of the changes, if you see, are from the application perspective. And I cannot agree with him more. that most of the changes have been from the application perspective to see or to help you understand the application of the concepts that you learn. So role of Indian banks and Reserve Bank in the development process. Now this is again another part that you normally do. Not if not as a part of any one of these areas, but in generally, because it is an RBI exam and therefore you know about RBI, and knowing about RBI is to know about role of Indian bank and RBI in the development process, right? Now this is the area, if you ask me, in economics, from the perspective of the syllabus change, what is more new is this public finance and political economy. Now public finance and political economy you used to touch, for example, public finance, the impact of GST on the economy. So you used to touch it, but now you need to go into much more detail in here. And the same with political economy. Now the political economy, when we talk about the political structure and that's its effects on economy, now that was not entirely an important part of the 2019 course, but this is stated here today in 2020's course, and therefore that becomes important. Right. So these are the two areas where you need to go into detail. Now see, till now, apart from linkages with the economy and and public finance and political economy, most of the stuff are stuff that you are already doing, but in a different name or under a different heading. Okay. And that's why I wrote in here, not exactly deleted but modified. Industrial developments in India. Indian agriculture services sector in India. The more contemporary and analytical impact assessment of policy action is expected from you, and that is why these have been included. If you look at the industrial development in India, now if we look at industrial and labor policy, in that, would we be doing without industrial development in India? Yes, you can say that agricultural sector and services sector in detail we did not used to do earlier. Okay, take it. That is something that you might need to do today with more emphasis, no doubt about it. But let me tell you, when you do policies, and especially when you do policies related to the economic policies of the government, then you are already including agricultural and services sector also, right? If you want to go into more detail into it, you can, but I think that if you had been orienting yourself in a structured manner, preparing yourself in a structured manner, these things are already included. The things where you would need to focus in a renewed perspective, are public finance, political economy, and you might say detailing of monetary and fiscal policy since reforms of 1991. Right? Okay. So these are where you would be orienting yourself in a renewed manner, in a more detailed manner. And if you see, this part has made the ESI syllabus more contemporary, isn't it? This has made ESI syllabus more contemporary, and you'll have to be more analytical in nature. And another thing, if you see, this part seems to be like has been included so that it had been so that the syllabus is modified for the descriptive structure that they are bringing. Because see, descriptive structure, how do you think the questions should be? The questions should be analytical in nature. They would be trying to check your ability to analyze a situation or a policy, right? So if that can only happen when they include in the course the recent things that has happened, and that is what is happening in the Indian economy sector. Now, most of the part of the syllabus is same apart from the international economic issues. In globalization, you have been already doing these. See, more than 80% of the stuff had been common with what had been in 2019. But when it comes to international economic issues, now that's a broader term. That's a broader term than IMF and World Bank and WTO and Regional Economic Cooperation. And that is already included in here also. But this has been added. Now, What does it mean? It means that, you see, understand, today globalization is something which is a given for all of us, and all of our economy is working inside that globalized framework. Now, if you look at the 1991 crisis that we had, now after that we had been slowly moving towards a more globalized economy. Now, when we are moving towards more globalized economy, what does it mean? It means that we are adopting the changes that are accepted in across the globe as positive and progressive changes, right? Okay. So, for example, the FATCA, the Basel norms, or the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, right? So all of these global phenomenon, these were global phenomenon, and these were adopted by, or these are being adopted by, the Indian government too. So international economic issues definitely becomes very important when it comes to your understanding of economics as a whole. So this part is something that makes your syllabus more relevant. No doubt here you will have to invest your time so that you understand the international economic issues too. Right. So all in all, if I look at the whole ESI segment, if you see that what are most important areas that you need to approach with a broader perspective: public finance, political economy, right? This part, and that is policy reforms since 1991 and international economic issues. This you will have to approach with a broader perspective. The rest of the economic course remains the same. You have learned them under a different heading, but they remain mostly the same, right? Even the social structure in India, nothing, especially in this sector, nothing has been changed. Whatever you had been doing earlier is something that you would be doing now also. Okay, so that was ESI for you, my friends. That was ESI. Now what do? We will move on to finance. Now before moving on to finance, let me tell you something, that we are planning, as Amit sir might have told you, that we are planning to come up with lectures to guide you how to handle the changed structure, that is descriptive part, and what to do in the changed areas of the courses, right? So in that you would be able to understand in more detail how to approach these areas. But now you know very clearly, even if you want to do it by yourself, you know where your focus should be for the new part of the syllabus and where your focus should be for the old part of the syllabus. And in reality, how much is changing? In ESI, in reality, how much has changed? We have seen apparently there is so much change, but in reality we saw that the change is not as much as it seems to be at the first glance, right? Now we will move on to finance. Let's see how finance fares in this area. 2019-2020 in front of you. Now 2019, if you look at these recent, now all the black part are something which have remained same, right? Now let's look at the blue part. Now this is something which has changed apparently. So let's see whether it has in reality changed or not. Recent developments in the financial sector, portfolio investment, public sector reforms, disinvestment. So this seems to be not present in this particular course. Then union budget, direct indirect tax, non-tax sources, 13th Finance Commission, fiscal policy, FRBM Act. These are also some things that are not present verbatim inside 2020 syllabus, right? Now let's look at what are new in the 2020 syllabus. In financial system, impact of global financial crisis 2007-8 and the Indian response. Now this seems to be something which is really new from what had been in 2019's course. How did we respond to the 2007-8 crisis, and what was 2007-8 crisis? Now if you look at in ESI also, we saw that there is a movement towards understanding the international issues, right? So that is something that we are seeing in finance also. right? And global finance crisis 2007-8 is a very important chapter in the world economy. We all know how the 2007-8 crisis created a question mark even on the on liberalization and globalization policies of various government, and how India responded to it. Now this is contemporary, so contemporary that we would be learning a lot of stuff out of it, right? And that is why it has been included. You might have been doing it anyways in 2019 course part also, as a part of your risk management and the corporate governance wala sector. You might have been doing it, but now you'll have to do it with consistent and focused manner for this area, right? Okay, so this is something which is new. Now, risk management in banking sector, basics of derivatives. Now here there has been a minor change. See, earlier we used to see that in basics of derivative they only mentioned forward, futures and swap, and they specifically did not mention options. But when I see today, they have not written anything, they have just said that basics of derivatives. Now what can we infer from that? One thing that can be inferred from that is that now we will have to look at all derivatives, whether it is option, forward, future or swap. And see, in a way, option is something that is one of the most important derivative, and I'm sure that if you had been learning derivative, you had been learning options too. But if you had not, then it is high time that you learn options also. Now, but this is a minor change. The next major change comes in here. Global financial markets and international banking, broad trends and latest development. Again, see, the focus in finance has been very specifically on the global trends, on the global understanding. In ESI it was both, right, local and global, but here it had been skewed towards the global understanding. Now, when I look at the global financial markets and international banking, this is closely related to the impact of global financial crisis also, because today's financial markets and the international banking systems had been rejigged in a way after the financial crisis, and in India also we have seen it, and in outside India also we have seen it. Now again, what I would say is that specifically the broad trends of banking and the latest developments of banking, I think you might have been doing, if you had been preparing in a structured manner, you might have been doing this already in the changing landscape of banking sector. You must have been doing it, right? So if you had not done it, it means that you needed a structured way of understanding things, because you know that it's if you look at it specifically, this is part of that changing landscape of banking sector, the way it has been changing. Now, when I come to changing landscape of banking sector, this has been shifted to financial system. A minor change, but yes, this has been shifted to financial system, which makes it more logical also, because the banking sector landscape is a part of financial system. Now, please understand that a lot of stuff we are seeing under new name are stuff that we have done under other headings, or there had been general headings in 2019 syllabus and we anyways used to do this, and today they have specified it. Now why they must have done it? Because these are important things, and people who mug up and go to for exam, they might be missing on these things, these important things, though they have specified. So they have specified that, boss, you must be knowing these important things. That seems to be the idea behind these changes when I looked at them specifically. Now, coming to the union budget, the changes in union budget. Now, union budget surprisingly has become more generalized. Rather than from the specific direct, indirect tax, non-tax resources, 13 Finance Commission and Finance Commission fiscal policy, it has become concept, approach and broad trends. Now, if you look at this anything that you have studied here or would be studying, because the union budget would be the upcoming union budget, so would be studying here anyways, would be relevant for here also, because when you are going to understand union budget, approach and broad trends, would you not be learning about the direct and indirect tax system that has been specified in this year's budget? Would you not be learning about the non-tax sources of revenue or GST? You would be, right? Okay, so this is a change in name only. Rather, you might say that again this change directs us towards a more descriptive approach, because this change means that you'll have to understand budget from a holistic perspective, which would again help us for our descriptive answers. The last one, the last change in finance is the inflation. In inflation, see, definition, trend, estimate, consequences, and WPI, CPI, till this everything seems same. But then they have specified striking a balance between inflation and growth through monetary and fiscal policies. Now, what I understand, if when we study or when we teach inflation, how do we do it? We include this inflation growth through monetary and fiscal policies inside the consequences and remedies part, the control part. So how do I control inflation? Through monetary and fiscal policies only, right? So these controlling features are already there, but then why then therefore they have specified? That might be again for that reason that people do not specifically know about it, and therefore they find difficulty in assimilating that stuff. So they have therefore specified what you should also be knowing, right? So this is more specifics which you are anyways doing. And the final big change is fintech. Now fintech was a part of the earlier syllabus in a manner which was not very much focused. Obviously you would be doing fintech when you would be having the recent changing landscape of banking sector, or the recent changes in banking sector. You would be doing it even in corporate governance. When you say corporate governance in banking sector and role of e-governance in addressing the issues of corruption, you would be doing fintech stuff only in that, right? But now this time it has included fintech in as a separate issue, maybe for the reason that it is becoming more and more important nowadays, right? As in a way, obviously it covers the omitted portions of these two also. Now recent development in financial sector, a lot of them are tech developments, and use of technology, again tech developments. So you were doing them under these headings, now you would be doing them under this heading, fintech. Okay, right? So if you look at the clear cut major changes had been from the global perspective, understanding the global perspective. The other changes are cosmetic changes, changes in name. Those concepts you were anyways doing earlier, okay, right? But these are things that you need to focus more on when it comes to finance. Okay, now coming to the last segment, and that is management, where they had taken an axe and grinded everything that came into their path, is what a lot of students are feeling, that the management syllabus has been changed entirely. Well, I would partially agree with you. The management syllabus has been changed the most, no doubt about it, but entirely no, my dear friends. I'll show that to you. And don't believe me, just look at the syllabus in detail. See, again, the black part are all those stuff that we were already doing. Now, the management syllabus was characterized by not being detailed enough. Earlier also we had felt that the management syllabus was very peripheral in nature. That means that they had mentioned general stuff, but they did not go into specifics. Anyways, when we were studying the general stuff, we had to go into the specifics too, right? So a lot of stuff you might have already studied. So all of this is anyways verbatim same to what had been earlier. So management, introduction to management, this is same. Here one theory has been specifically mentioned, and that is because of the reason that in the late 2007-8 this theory had gained in prominence. So they want you to have a contemporary knowledge too, right? So nudge theory is something that you'll have to do specifically if you have not heard about it. Now next, meaning and concept of organizational behavior. Now this is something that has come in as a separate segment only. If you see that, if I have to summarize, the management change in syllabus, one part of it is that the HRD segment has been replaced by the organizational behavioral segment. Okay, and part of it is organizational change and organization development, and a new segment of ethics has been added to it. I'll show this to you. See, personality, meaning factors affecting personality, big five model of personality, concept of reinforcement. That was earlier also we used to do it, because when we used to do motivation, we had to do reinforcement, whether it was Skinner's reinforcement theory or other reinforcement theory, we had to do perception, concept, and perceptual errors. So these have come as new factors. Now, but why I have marked them in red? Because there was every chances that if you had done this whole course, you might have missed still on these, because these were not directly related to this course. Yes, in motivation they might have been discussed cursorily, but not in detail. Now you'll have to study them in a little more detail. But now let's look at the next part, motivation. Now the motivation part remains same, only the detailing had been done. Maslow's need theory, didn't you do it while you were studying motivation? If you had not done it, then you have not studied it properly. Alderfer's ERG theory, very, very popular theories. These are McClellan's theory of need, Herzberg's two-factor theory, process theories, then expectancy theories. So these are theories that you have already done. They have just mentioned it so that you do not miss on the important parts. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the YouTube lectures of ours, there only I had listed all these theories and more, right? So what is the idea? That if you have done leadership theories in detail in a structured manner, then my dear friends, you have already done these things. Then concept, theories, and trade, behavior, contingency, charismatic, transactional, transformational, everywhere they have put in specifics. Now people were telling me, sir, leadership style to hai nahi. यार ये leadership style नहीं है तो क्या है? Right? They have just made it more specific so that you do not miss these stuff. These stuffs are already, you are already doing it. If I remember rightly, in one of our YouTube lectures also we had questions on these transactional, transformational leadership theories. Right? Then emotional intelligence, Goldman's EQ quotient. Remember emotional intelligence quotient. Then concept, importance, dimensions, analysis of interpersonal relationship, transactional analysis, Johari window, conflict resolution, management of conflict. All of these stuff, they have put it under leadership. We had done it under other heading might be. Okay. For example, I normally teach conflict resolution as a part of communication. So you have done it inside under the heading of communication, but these are stuff that had already been done, right? Now, what are the new things again? Organizational change. So these might look different, but they are not any way different. Now, organizational change, Kurt Lewin theory of change, organizational development, strategies for change, theories of planned change, where action research model, positive model. Now, these are things that you might not have done in your previous syllabus. You might have thought of leaving these. Why? Because these were organizational change parts. So they have included the whole organizational change part. Whereas they have eliminated the whole HRD part. Now, some people are asking, sir, therefore, can we eliminate the whole HRD part? We would not revise the HRD part. We will not do the HRD part. Well, you can and you cannot. Why? Because a lot of theories of HRD are common with motivation theories. You know that. So, as a matter of fact, the theories of HRD that we learn are progressed further and applied for motivation later on. Now, if we do not know the background of those theories, it would become difficult for us to understand them when we would be discussing them in motivation. So, then again it would be a mugging up kind of stuff. So, can you eliminate HRD entirely from your system? No, you cannot. you might as well, not revise the potential appraisal and development performance appraisal wala part, but hardly that's how much, that is 2 pages 3 pages of notes. So if you have done it, you can already go through it, because see, understand, when there is descriptive answer, how would you create a difference in your answer? Your answers would be different if you are showing enhanced ability to create linkages in a cross-functional manner. So for motivation question, if you can draw inferences or draw concepts from HRD and training and development and therefore relate them to it, your answers quality would be much more enhanced. So though in a verbatim manner, this part is entirely not present in this course, but my suggestion to you, my friends, would be to study this. Why? Because you would get good data from here, especially training development, career planning is so linked with motivation, employee welfare is so linked with motivation, that you would be, you would get so much data to enhance your writing abilities in descriptive, that it might be a deciding factor, right? Okay, so don't leave it. Take So that is the answer to those questions which you said that should we leave it. Yes, you do not need to go into the specifics of everything in HRD, because that's not the part of the direct course as of now, but don't leave it entirely. Next, coming to the next edition in this year, and a major addition, ethics. The whole part of ethics has been included. Now if you look at it, earlier also they used to say ethics and corporate governance, and they only gave specifics about corporate governance. And if I remember right, 2018 there were 2 questions on ethics too. There were 2 questions on ethics, though they had not specified anything on ethics. So I would not be saying that ethics is entirely new to the system, but definitely this time they have specified to an extent where it has become a separate module in itself and inside management, just like leadership and communication. Okay, so ethics needs to be studied in detail without doubt. There is no doubt, a lot of these things you might have touched upon in corporate governance too, because ethic principle in business, corporate governance rules are derived from here only, na. Then organization structure and ethics, role of board of directors, okay, best practices in ethics program, code of ethics, code of conduct. These might have been discussed or these might have been covered in your corporate governance module also. But then these parts are entirely some things that you might not have done, because you did not need to do them according to the old syllabus. But now you would need to do it. Whether it is meaning of ethics, why ethical problem occur in business, theory of ethics, rights and duties, justice and fairness, integrating utility on alternative to moral principles, all these theory, egoism theory, teleological theory, relativism theory, all of these theory you would need to learn in detail now. And understand one thing, in descriptive of management there is high chance that they are going to focus on ethics, because if they have given so much importance to ethics, there is high chance that they would need to understand your ethical standpoint in ethical dilemma question and your reasons for those standpoints. And if that is the case in descriptive, then you would need to be well versed with the concepts of ethics. More from, so the theoretical perspective is there. More from the theoretical perspective, your ability to articulate yourself to take a stand which would be morally upright and ethically correct. Okay, right? Okay, so these are the major changes. So if we look at it, management, now corporate governance, no change as such, communications, no change as such, all of them had been there. So if I look at this, incentives is again something that has not been included in here. right? Incentive has not been included. So the performance appraisal, potential appraisal, development and role of incentive in building up morale, this you might be thinking of doing away with, because you see these are stuff which has been specifically left out. Okay, so if you want, you can revise them also, but it would take hardly 2 hours of your extra time. But if you want, you can leave them, but the rest is as much relevant to this course as, or this syllabus, as it had been to this syllabus, right? Okay, so this is what the reality is. Now my dear friends, tell me one thing. If you look at the structure of 2019 and 2020 syllabus, do you think that it is very different? 2020 is very different from 2019. There has been changes, no doubt about it, but significant portions are still common, na? And therefore those who had been studying for the past few months feeling that they are now at a disadvantage, that's a wrong feeling. I know reactively that's the feeling that you had the moment you looked at the syllabus. Even I had that, I told you, na? But then when we analyze it, now that I have shown you in detail what this syllabus means, and why did I do this to you? Because when you look at this, you are now clear that a lot of stuff that we have studied is not wasted at all. As a matter of fact, they have become more relevant if I have gone in a more structured way, right? And definitely there had been changes and there had been new things that have been included, more in management, less in ESI and finance, but yes, there had been included. But these new additions, in many instances, these new additions are related to the previous concepts. They are related to the previous concepts only. So therefore your conceptual clarity in the previous concepts is definitely going to help even in these new concepts, in a lot of these new concepts. So if you have prepared your concepts in a structured way, na, my friends, then you do not need to worry. Those concepts are going to definitely help you. So what should be your focus? Your focus should be to revise those concepts and start studying these additional topics, with a focus on these additional topics. Now there had been, in your mind there might be this idea that, sir, how much time should I give to descriptive, how much time should I give to new topics, how much time should I give to the to the phase 1? That might be in your mind. Now if that, I'll give you a ballpark figure, or a plan in which you can divide your preparation. Because see, understand, phase 1, my dear friend, is very important. If you are missing on phase 1, then you might not go into phase 2 and none of these change in syllabus would matter to you, right? So don't ignore phase 1. So my idea from the experience that I have from these years is that your 20 to 25% of your time should be devoted to phase 1 still, till the phase 1 exam. Now the rest 75% time should be divided between the old topics and new topics. For the old topics and new topics. So to the old topics, new revision, you should not be giving more than 30% of your time, 30 to 35% of your time, and learning the new topics would be 40% of your time. Okay, so this is the division that you would be doing. Now you would be telling me, sir, then when do we practice descriptive? My dear friends, the concepts would be the same for descriptive only, na? We would show you in all of these 3 topics that how the concepts that you have learned from the objective would be as much relevant in descriptive, as a matter of fact more relevant in descriptive, right? So descriptive is not separate preparation. Descriptive, you'll obviously have to write, you'll have to prepare for it, but that would be inside this 30-35% of time, and that would be inside this 40% of the time, right? So in the new topics, first prepare yourself for the concepts and then prepare objective questions, just like what you have done in the old topics, and then move on to the descriptive. In the old topics, just revise on the basis of questions, because that's what you should be doing at this point of time, and move on for the descriptive writing section. Okay, right? So this is how you would be preparing, should be preparing yourself. Obviously you can, if you feel that you if giving time a little more to a particular area would help you more, that obviously that change you can do by yourself, but this is the ballpark figure or the ballpark percentage of time that you should be giving to yourself to be prepared on all counts, because you have phase 1, you have phase 2. No, you'll have to be prepared for phase 1, you'll have to be prepared for phase 2 simultaneously. In phase 2, you'll have the old things that you need to revise and the new things that you'll have to learn, right? So that's the overall structured way in which you should be approaching. Okay, okay. So that was today's agenda. I showed you what are the differences in the syllabus, right? So there is nothing to feel like that whatever we have done till now is wasted. But yes, there is also things which are new and which you can do provided you have a planned approach and a structured approach towards your preparation. Okay, okay. So that would be all for today. Hope you found this lecture helpful. See you in the next lecture. Thank you. Bye bye and all the best.